Boker Tov, Kal Kadosh, Masechet Ketubot Daf Zayin Amud Aleph 7A1. Says the Gemara. If you remember, we were just speaking about the difference whether it's permitted or prohibited to have relations on Friday night. And we spoke about the Mefis Mursa. Mefis Mursa means that a person has a pimple on Shabbat. Is he allowed to make an entrance, which means that it's going to take out the pus. So if you're making an entrance, you're going to be chayav. Why? Because then you're being mitaken, you're making an entrance. But if the kavanah is just to take out the pus, so you're going to be patur. So there we need the differentiation between whether it's that it's just inside of it or it's in deep inside. You have to take it out of the walls. By the dam between, since it's also inside of the wall, you have to take it out. To extract it, that's why you're going to be chayav. But the other one, which is nefis mursa, which is just the pus, which is coming out, are you going to be patur? Rabbi Ami, right? Rabbi Ami. So we are on the second line. Yeah, Rabbi Ami shara leniva b'tfilah b'Shabbat. Rabbi Ami permitted for a chatan to have relations with his kala at the beginning on Shabbat. Amri le Rabbanan. The students told Rabbi Ami, 1 second. V'alo k'tiva kitubata. There was no ketubah. Now we know that if there's no ketubah, you're not allowed to have relations. Yeah, everyone understood? One more time. If there's no ketubah, you cannot have relations. This is very important because I always tell the chatanim that it's already happened, right? And don't ask me where. I don't know how many times where all of a sudden, right, the ketubah is lost, which means the night of the wedding, they can't find the ketubah. So therefore, what do? They're not allowed to have relations. So I remember this happened in Eretz Israel, right, to a friend of mine, that he told me that his wife was a yetomah. So she only had a mother. Now, what happens is usually at the wedding, they give the ketubah to the bride gives it to her mother, and the mother takes it. Now, the mother couldn't find the ketubah. They couldn't find the ketubah. So at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, right, after the wedding, and after they realized everything that went on, they had to look for a rabbi. They found a rabbi. They had to look for witnesses. They found 2 witnesses, and they had to write a new ketubah. Why? Because if there's no ketubah, you're not allowed to have relations. The same thing happened, right? Amar lehu, he answers him, at pesua metalteli. You know what at pesua metalteli means? At pesua metalteli means is that he has to give metalteli instead of the ketubah, which means that until they write the ketubah, he could give a collateral. And that collateral is like a collateral, for example, he's going to give her his Rolex. And the Rolex, right, if it's worth enough, yeah, will be, right, enough that will be the collateral for the ketubah. And then after the Shabbat, he can come and he can give her the ketubah. He can write her the ketubah. So the Gemara says, Zvid came and he permitted also to have relations at the beginning of the Shabbat, which means on Friday night. Somebody was even in Oziel himself like this, that he actually had relations the first time on Friday night. Next, Rabbi Yehuda also permitted to have relations on the beginning, which means on Yom Tov. Amar Rav Papi, Mishmed Rava says, Rav Papi the name of Rava, Lo tema b'Yom Tov the Sharia b'Shabbat. So don't say that on Yom Tov it's going to be mutar and Shabbat is going to be prohibited. So I think the filu b'Shabbat not Shari, but even on Shabbat it's going to be permitted. But that was just a story. The story was it happened on Yom Tov, but really be'emet it's mutar even on Shabbat to have relations. Well, Rav Papa Mishmed Rava Amar b'Yom Tov Shari b'Shabbat. But Papa says the name of Rabba, on Yom Tov it's going to be mutar, Shabbat is going to be asur. Amale Rav Papi le Rav Papa, says Rav Papi to Rav Papa, my datech. Right? What's your shita? Mitosh utrach abura letzoreh, utrach nami shelo letzoreh. You're going to tell me that why is it permitted on Yom Tov? Because of mitoch. Mitoch means since it's going to be permitted to make a chabura letzoreh, right? Which means you're allowed to do shchita on Yom Tov. You're allowed to do shechita on Yom Tov. You're allowed to do shechita on Yom Tov, right? Some people do it all the time. Yeah, but you're allowed to do shechita on Yom Tov. So therefore, you're allowed to do it also shalom letzorech. Letzorech was to eat on Yom Tov. Lo letzorech, to have a relationship with his wife. Utranami lo letzorech. It's not going to be for lo letzorech, which means even if it's not going to be for food. This concept of mitoch is a lot of things. For example, if right now you're going to be permitted to come and use hot water, right, for eating, for cooking. So if you're allowed to use hot water, for example, let's say for shower. The only thing is that usually when we use the concept of mitoch, it has to be something which is shaveh lechol nefesh. It has to be something which everybody uses, right? Not if not everybody uses it, you can't use it. That's where the machlokot come to the showering, because remember that once upon a time people didn't shower every single day. So therefore, it wasn't something which was shaveh l'chol nefesh. Then we start speaking about nowadays. It's permitted, what's prohibited. Ela mi'ata, but now we have a question. Mutar lasot mugmar b'yom tov. You're allowed to do mugmar on Yom Tov, right? What is mugmar? You're putting fire underneath besamim on Yom Tov in order that the besamim will go into the clothing. Meaning it's like making a fire, and used to make a good fragrance, and that fragrance would come and it will go into the clothing. So since you're allowed to use havara, which means making a fire for what? For cooking. It should be permitted for lo letzorech. And it's mefurash. You're not allowed to do this on Yom Tov. So answers the Gemara. Elmaleh, he answered him. The Papa answered to the Papi. Alecha makra, on you the pasuk says, Ach asher yachel lechol nefesh. Davar hashaveh lechol nefesh. So I already started explaining to you this. When it says the concept of mitoch, it has to be something which is shaveh lechol nefesh. Shaveh lechol nefesh means that the majority of people, they do that. Which means when we say mitoch, that since it's permitted for eating purposes, permitted for another purpose, it has to be the majority of people do that. No gumugmar, not everybody does it. So since not everybody does it, it's not the majority of people, so therefore it's not going to be permitted. So says the Gemara, Elmaleh Ravacha bered Rava Ravashi says Ravacha betzar Rava to Ravashi. We're going to ask the question: These damelot tzvi b'yom tov. What happens if a person has a tzvi, a deer, he writes on Yom Tov? Since it's not shaveh l'chol nefesh, right, but since it's so expensive, right, only ashirim could have it. So you're not allowed to do shechita. Meaning, according to you, what you're saying is only if the majority of people could have it, so then they're going to say mitoch. 1 second. A tzvi is very, very expensive. It's for the affluent people. So now you're not allowed to do shechita mitoch because it's not shaveh l'chol nefesh. What? Of course, the tzvi is kasher. A deer is kasher. So he says, Elmaleh. Ana davar tzorech lechol nefesh kamina, tzvi tzarich lechol nefesh. He says we're talking about something which is the tzorech of lechol nefesh, but its tzvi is tzorech lechol nefesh, which means like this: everybody could eat tzvi. Yeah, everybody could eat tzvi, but that's only tzvi is deer, but only if it's be'emet, if it's prepared, but not by mugmar. Amar Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, Hora Rabbi Yochanan b'Tzaidan. Rabbi Yochanan paskin in Tzaidan that you're not allowed to have a relationship with the Betulah on Shabbat. So ask the Gemara, Umika Hora'a Li'isur. Hora'a means le'atir, not li'isur. When you say Hora'a, it means that the mashmaut is that you're going lekula. You're passing latir, not le'esor. And so yes, there does exist the concept of Hora'a Li'isur. That's numbers we learned in a Mishnah. Okay, Ora'u betilah shte nezira od sheva shnim achirot. They went and they passed in that she should be a Nazira for another 7 years. So you see from here, Hora'ah is the Tzatchuma. Or we could have another case. When you have a Chuta Shidra of an animal, which is the spinal cord, right? The majority that was disconnected, it's Trefa. Rabbi Yaakov says even if it has a hole, right? The Orar Rabbi Yaakov, and Rabbi passed like Rabbi Yaakov. So Ravuna and Rabbi Yaakov, we don't pass like Rabbi Yaakov, which means that the Be'emah does not become a Trefa just because the Chuta Shidra has a hole in it or whatever it is, unless the majority of it is like that. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Matzliyacha. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, he went and he paskin. Amar Rabbi Avusha Rishar Yishmael ben Yaakov the means Tzor. So Rabbi Yishmael ben Yaakov from Tzor, he came and he asked Rabbi Yochanan Mitzadam, Ana Sham, and I heard Ma'u legam b'Shabbat. He said Asud. Vehilchata. What's halacha? Vehilchata mutar livol b'tfilah b'Shabbat. You're allowed to. That's halacha. Right? They said, what's the reasoning? Is it because it's machriya because the chabura is considered a kilkul in the woman? Or is it because you're mechavel lo tzatadam and it's not psik resha? Right? Because it's not psik resha because it could be that you'll do it betayah on the side and therefore the blood won't come out. That's just like Rabba. Right? Or there's other reasons as well, but halakha ma'aseh, you're allowed to, and it's brought down in Siman, resh peh. Amar Ravuna Amar Rabbi Abba bar Azav Amar Rav, Achat betula ve'achat almana teuna bracha. There's a beautiful Gemara. Listen carefully. Whether we're talking about a betula or an almana, you need to do birkat chatanim when they get married. Meaning you have to do the Sheva brachot when they get married. So ask the Gemara, Umi Amar Ravuna, does Ravuna say that? Amar Ravuna says almana teuna bracha. Almana don't get a bracha. So answers the Gemara, Allah kasha. It's not a question. Kan bebachur Shenasa Almana. You were talking about a Bachur means that he never got married. They got married to an Almana. The Khan, and here we're talking about an Almon Shenasa Almana. So says the Gemara, what are you talking about? The Almon Shenasa Almana. You're going to tell me that it's an Almon that got married to an Almana. He doesn't need to do Shabbat Brachot. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar li Rav Huna, right? Amar li Huna ben Natan. Tana minay bikach hatanim basra. How do we bikach hatanim 10? Meaning somebody. This actually, by the way, happened. I remember somebody called me up. They said, Rabbi, we're going to do a wedding, right? And what's it called? It was during COVID, so we're going to do a wedding, but a very, very small wedding. I went and I said, no names. So I went and I said, what does that mean? He says, no, we're going to do a very, very small wedding, right? So I said, 1 second. And how many people are you going to have? 5, 6. You know, the Chatan, the Kala, and the Rabbi during COVID. Yeah. So what happened? I went and he said, you need 10. If you do not have 10, it's going to be a problem. Yeah. So he comes and the answers, right? It was here. Yeah. He said, Almon that gets married to an Amana, you don't need Sheva Berachot. The Amar was Zayin Mudalef, right? The Amar of Nachman towards the bottom. The Amar of Nachman, Amali Huna ben Natan. Says Unatan, how do we know Bikach Hatanim has to be with 10 people? Shnema, that's another pasuk. Vayikach 10 anashim. He took 10 people in Ziknaid. Vayomer Shvu po. Stay here. Vayeshevu Boaz. Almon Shenasal Manahaba. Boaz was an Almon. His wife passed away. Ruth was an Almana. And Almon getting married to an Almana, you need 10 people for Bikat Hatanim, which means you need a minyan. I mean, even during COVID, you couldn't get married just between yourselves. You needed 10 people for Bikat Hatanim, for Sheva Berachot. And that's a proof that even for an Almon that gets married to Almana, you need Sheva Berachot. So says the Gemara, no. What does it mean that you don't need a Beracha? The Ravuna said, you don't need Sheva Berachot all 7 days. Aval Yom Echad, 1 day, Teuna Beracha. You do need a Beracha. What? You need 10 people. No, and Beracha Bichlal after Shara Yamim when it's an Almon with an Alman. So says the Gemara, 1 day, that's all. So says the Gemara, so 1 second, but it's what you need 3 days. What are we talking about? If you're telling me it's a Bachur that got married to Alamana, which means the man that never got married, Amarta Shiva, you said that it's going to be 7 days. If it's going to be talking about an Almon, Amarta Yom Echad, we're talking about 1 day. So answers the Gemara, Ibaitema be'almon, Yom Echad libracha u'shosha lesimcha, Ibaitema be'bachur, Shiva libracha u'shosha lesimcha. Which means like this. Yeah, everyone's paying attention one more time. If it's an Almon to an Almana, 1 day for beracha. Yeah, 1 day for. Says the Gemara, we're talking about an Almon that got married to an Almana. So therefore, there's 1 day of beracha and 3 days of simcha. You can answer, we're talking about Bachur that got married to an Almana. So Sheva Berachot, but 3 days for simcha. Okay, fine. Zayin Bet. Mateway, we're going to ask a question, right? Here it says we're going to make a bracha for betula 7 days, and for Almana 1 day. My Lara, we're not talking about even an Almana that go married to a Bachur and still you only do 1 day. And so the Gemara, no, le'almon, for an Almon. Aval Bachur, what happens with the Bachur? Shiva. Are you going to tell me it's Shiva? So just say. So says the Gemara, you're right. The leka betula the batzam yeshiva, the leka almana the batzam yuchad. The betula never gets less than 7 berachot, and the almana never will get less than yom echad. Okay, fine. But the bachur also gets 7 berachot. Says the Gemara, gufa. Amar Nachman says Nachman. Amar li Huna ben Natan. Tana minale b'kachad imatzra. How do we know b'kachad to be with 10 people? Shnema v'yikach 10 anashim v'ziknei yid. Vayomer shvu pos. We learned it from Boaz. One more time. Boaz was an Alman. He got married to Ruth, which was an Almana. And what happened? Alman was Almana. And what?
1 day.
And they had the 1 day, but they had to do 10 people for Birkat Hatanim. So they did have Hatanim, they did have Birkat Hatanim, and they had 10 people, because he said, Vayikach 10 anashim. So Rabbi Avu says, there's another pasuk. The pasuk says, "B'makelot barechu Elohim Adonai Mekor Israel. What does that mean? The one that's making a blessing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Aliskia Mekor, which is basically Birkat Chatanim, which is coming on the marriage, right? Which the entire purpose of the marriage is procreating. So if the entire purpose of marriage is procreating, which is the entire concept of the Mekor is the uterus, the womb, where a woman receives a baby. So if it's going to be like that, so you have to make this beracha. Mimekor Yisrael. What does that mean? The makelot. What is makelot? The kahal. Kahal Baruch Hu. So what is a kahal? Minimum of 10 people, right? So he says, when Nachman comes, Rav Nachman says, Behai krad Rabbi Yehu my tishve. What does Rav Nachman do with the Drasha of Rabbi Yehu? Because remember, Rav Nachman came and he brought it down from the pasuk of Boaz. Now where Rabbi Yehu is coming and bringing it from pasuk and Tehillim. So says the Gemara, he needs it for this. Haya Rabbi Yehu says Rabbi Yehu, how do we know that even the fetus in their mother's wombs, how do we know that they made a blessings to HaKadosh Baruch Hu when they were in the stomachs of their mothers? Which means that you learn from here that even before they came out, they were still in Mekor Israel. They were in the wombs of their mothers. They were praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what he learns. If so, should just said from the stomach. My Mekor, why does it say from the Mekor, he said, Aliske Mekor, on things to do with the Mekor. Meaning when the person gets married, he starts dealing with things to do with the Mekor. Okay? Listen. Rabbi Yavu, and according to Rabbi Yavu, what does he do with the pasuk from Boaz? So he says, he needs it for the midrash as a drasha. What was a drasha? Which means, why did he need 10 people? He needed the 10 people to teach you Amoni v'lo Amonit, Moavi v'lo Moavit. These are the different going to tell me it's going to be for 10 people for the beracha. Why did he have to take 10 elders? Because it says that he took 10 elderly people. Why do you need the elderly people? Well, you could only do Sheva Berachot with Zikinim, right? I want to do Sheva Berachot with the teenager, right? With youngsters. If you only needed Tzad Minyan, so get it with anybody. Once he's Bar Mitzvah and he's not an Eved, so what's the problem? Why did he have to get elders? He said, no, he had to get elders to make the drasha of Amoni v'lo Amonit, Moavi v'lo Moavit. Remember, the root was Moaviyah. It wasn't 100% clear to everybody that it was Amoni v'lo Amonit, Moavi v'lo Moavit. Well, we just saw Tivamot. You guys remember? So because of that, he took 10 elderly people. So everybody will find out and know about this halakha. The Idach, another one. He started, if you're going to tell me it's for the Midrash, La Sagada, well, you just need a Dirasha, you need 10 people. And says, yes, you do need 10 people. Why? When you want to publicize, what do? You get 10 people. Right? Because 10 people, they publicize very, very well. Right? Or so what happens? Shmuel, Avchana, Bagdata. It says Shmuel, Avchana, Bagdata. Right? Go bring me 10 people. The Elmaleh, I'm going to tell you in front of them, if somebody is going to be Mezakeh to an Ubar, he's going to be Koneh. You know what Mezakeh Ubar means? I'm going to come and I'm going to say that the fetus, I'm going to give to this fetus millions of dollars. Now, how do you, it's not born yet. How are you Mezakeh to the Ubar? It says still, a Mezakeh Ubar is going to be Kana. So because he wanted to show that this is halakha, he went and he said, bring me 10 people. When you bring me 10 people, then you can publicize the halakha. However, the halakha though is, if you're going to give a zikui to the ubar, you're not going to acquire. Okay, he's not going to acquire. Next, right? 2 dots. Where do you do birkat chatanim? Bebet chatanim. Which means in the olden days, the father used to build a bet chatanim for beno, which means he used to build a house, and that was his son's house. And he needs to have a big, huge property. And then they used to come and build the house. And that house was Bet Chatanim. Right? That was called Bet Chatanim. And that's where they used to live. So they used to live on the property. That's why, if you remember, I always told you, the boys always stayed with you and the girls. That was once upon a time. Nowadays, usually it's the opposite. But that's what it was. So he says, Abai says, Ubiuda Shani. But Yehuda, it's a little bit different to do with Bet Arusim. Because the minhag there was he used to have yichud. And therefore, since if you would have yichud, it could be that maybe he had relations with her. And the kala is not permitted until this birkat chatanim. So therefore, they would make this beracha even in bet harusim, which means there was a certain thing over there, right, that they used to do yichud. And because they used to do yichud, it says over here, they used to have in Medinat Yehuda, they had this minhag during the tkufa between the kiddushin and Muslim, they used to have yichud. So because of that yichud, that's why they said maybe they had relations. Right, and that's why it's a surah usually the yichud. Right, there's a whole thing here exactly what happened right over there, but fine. So now he comes and he says like this. He says, we learned another braita. We're going to make the bracha birkat chatanim in the bet chatanim. We're going to make birkat erusin, bet erusin. Remember, birkat erusin is the first brachot under the chuppah, right? Which is the braita shel atzalanu et arayot, v'tzalanu et nusolanu, v'dech chuppah v'kushin.
From here, they take the.
Next, birkat erusin, my mevarech, right? What exactly is birkat erusin? What is the bracha of birkat erusin? Ravim baravada. The Rabbi Baravada told him to Rabbi Yudah. Baruch Hashem Elokeinu B'chol Masechet Ketubot Daf Yitzvanu Al Arayot. Ve'asa lanu et aruso, v'tilanu et aruso lanu. We have lanu. Al yedei chuppah v'kiddushin. So that is the bracha of erusin. So that's what we do until today. Until today, that's nusach. Again, more or less, one word, two words. I have v'kiddushin with a bet. But that is the birkat kiddushin. Rabacha bered Rava Misayim ba mishmei Rabbi Yehuda. Baruch Hashem Mekadesh Yisrael al yedei chuppah v'kiddushin. But that's actually add also. Because the first part was only until, right? But there was no Baruch Hashem. So that's why he says, no, he finishes off by saying, Baruch Hashem, the one that does not finish off Baruch Hashem, is have Birkat HaPerot, Birkat HaMitzvot. It's like Birkat HaPerot and Birkat HaMitzvot, right? Which means you do not make a bracha at the end. You only made a bracha at the beginning. Okay? Right? He says, however, the one that finishes, Bidah Kiddush, it's like Kiddush, which means by Kiddush you finish Baruch Hashem Mekadesh Shabbat. So basically, there's machloket. Is it like birkat mitzvot that there's only one Baruch Hashem, right? Or like birkat perot, or is it like birkat the kiddush? It's that you're actually making right Baruch Hashem, right? And then Baruch Hashem, you start and you finish with the Baruch. So because of that, that's the difference machloket between. So you have to make shivat berachot with 10 people, all 7 days of this shivat berachot. You can't do it with less than 10 people. Rabbi Yehuda says, that's as long as you have panim hadashot. Okay, fine. Here it says according to the machloket, what is exactly panim hadashot? Somebody that didn't hear the birkat chatanim that they did under the chuppah. Other people say no panim hadashot that they didn't eat in the seudah. There's a whole thing there. Then also, okay, there's a whole question also how many is panim hadashot? Is it one person, two people? All this will, this is already brought down in the halakha. And then about the Shabbat is panim chadashot. My mevarech. So what are the Sheva berachot? So Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Olam, she'akol miyav no, she'akol bara lichvodo. Right? And we'll continue B'ezrat Hashem tomorrow.